Okay, Pentecost.
Pentecost.
Pentecost indeed. Can you tell me what is Pentecost? It's an interesting word yet again.
Yeah, we do good words in the church, don't
We
we?
do.
Well, some of you might have seen the Ascension video that we did when Jesus ascended into heaven so he could be with us on earth. So 10 days later, so 50 days after Easter, we celebrate Pentecost, which is where Pentecost comes from. 50.
Pent meaning 5. Yeah, I see how that works. Very good.
And it's also known as the birthday of the church.
Yeah, this is it.
We celebrate the birthday.
Indeed. Let's get the streamers out.
Absolutely.
Party blowers.
And so we see that today was the day that the church really started. People were sent out with the Holy Spirit. Are there any sort of symbols that we use to remember it that people might see around at this time of year?
Well, I think the most obvious one will be doves.
Yeah.
But actually, no dove appears in the story. But there are doves there.
I have no idea. Flames.
Flames.
And a blowing wind.
And a wind.
Which is really good. And in the church we also use oil as a symbol of the Holy Spirit as well, especially at christenings.
Very good. And so you said after, 50 days after Easter, 10 days after Ascension, that was when Pentecost happened. But shall we explore the story of that first Pentecost a bit? What happened there?
It's probably one of the most wonderful bits of the New Testament, where Jesus' friends were all gathered. They were in Jerusalem because it was the Harvest Festival equivalent, so they were all meeting up in an upper room. And suddenly, in that place, I can't imagine what that must have been like actually, a roaring wind and flames appeared above the disciples' heads. And they absolutely were transformed. And they rushed out into the streets and started to speak in foreign languages that everybody could understand. Yeah. It's in the Bible, isn't it?
As it says here from the Acts of the Apostles. On the day of Pentecost, all the believers were meeting together in one place. Suddenly, there was a sound from heaven like the roaring of a mighty windstorm, and it filled the house where they were sitting. Then what looked like flames or tongues of fire appeared and settled on each of them. And everyone present was filled with the Holy Spirit and began speaking in other languages as the Holy Spirit gave them this ability. Amazing.
And of course people who were looking thought they were all drunk.
That's one of my favourite parts of the story is, are these people drunk?
Of course we're not, it's only whatever time it was.
Whatever it was in the morning. Yes.
In the morning. Of course we're not drunk. This is the Holy Spirit. This is what we were promised. And then a quite quiet and timid group of people were transformed and they began to speak about Jesus Christ, and 3,000 were converted that day, were baptised. That's the power of the Holy Spirit. Love that story. Do look at it in the book of Acts.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And so a lot of us, certainly in the church, can see this transforming power still, even all these years later. Yes. But how do we celebrate Pentecost Day, or what does it mean for everyone that's watching this today?
It's a really
2,000 years on.
It's a really good question. I think the most important thing is to believe that the Holy Spirit is present and active now. We're not looking back to that wonderful story going, that's a lovely story, great memory for those who were there. This is possible for us now. Jesus is with us through the power of his Holy Spirit now and can transform our lives, and does.
And does.
Does indeed. Because that was another thing that was said in the Bible, wasn't it? That Jesus said, I am going to send to you my advocate. Yeah. And it's another one of these moments where the disciples probably thought, but what does that look like? And then there's this sudden realisation that actually Jesus knew what he was talking about. This is what he promised.
This is it.
Yes,
yeah.
This is it.
And I think that's what they then went out and were speaking to people. They were explaining, this is what he was saying. This is what it's all about.
Oh, it's fabulous. And if you read on in Acts, you'll find that the Holy Spirit guided those disciples to where they were meant to be, where most extraordinary things happened to them. And he works in our communities through us, those who gather, those who worship, and we're always listening out for the Holy Spirit to guide us into where we are meant to be and where the love of God is most needed.
Great.
Pentecost. Happy birthday to the church and happy Pentecost.
Happy Pentecost. And hopefully see you all again soon.
Cheerio.
Bye.